Hello dear user, zaidiboy here. You can tell that I'm in an ecstatically good mood based on the general effulgence of such evidential propensities emanating from my beautiful features, I'm sure. Now behold my mustache. It's una latina cosa. Latino. ¿Por qué? Porque I had the good fortune of meeting a divine angel in human form. Now, to say that I've been married para 9 años, I have a ring on my finger and vows, certain vows that were exchanged with a certain lady who shall remain nameless, but who in fact at this very moment that I'm speaking to you, my dearest one, is driving this vehicle and has successfully brought us to Gerrard Square. Now, if you don't live in Toronto, you're probably thinking, wow, this is so cool, man. These guys have so many shopping centers. Check out that little bridge, eh? I have a beautiful memory with Judith of coming across that bridge, you know, late at night. We're both living in shelters. We're both so stressed out. And, I mean, I was living in a shelter, let me just put it that way, and she was obviously there for me like an angel. Guys, let me just say one thing to you. We were just watching Dr. John Gray at a TED Talk. I really encourage you to look up that talk, guys. Dr. John Gray is the author. I mean, to call him an author is actually just scratching the surface. But he wrote the Mars-Venus series of books. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus, when Mars and Venus collide, Mars and Venus in the workplace, etc., etc. Now, to call him an author is only scratching the surface because there's two kinds of best-selling authors in the world of nonfiction, or let me put it this way. Mars-Venus book you might call a how-to manual on relationships, and there's always two kinds of people that write how-to books. There's people that actually have done what they're telling you to do, and they've gone through it. So in Dr. John Gray's case, he's the real deal by virtue of the fact that he has counseled thousands upon thousands of people. He's changed thousands upon thousands of lives. He's read, thank you sweetie, appreciate that. He's done thousands and thousands of experiments. And basically, what it boils down to, he's a bona fide expert on the art and science of relationships, right? So basically, to say that he's just an author is just scratching the surface. The guy's the real deal, right? He's got a practice. He's a scientist. He talks about the amygdala and different parts of the brain and all this kind of stuff. So, Toronto, a busy city. Everyone's in a goddamn rush, eh? And, you know, to have the time of day to be actually able to look at the gulls circling up ahead. What a beautiful day. Albeit slightly misty. So to say that he's just an author is just scratching the surface. He's the real deal. It's like the fellow Gottman. I believe his name is John too. John Gottman, who wrote the 7 Principles of Making Marriage Work. Now, John Gottman did something that nobody's ever done. And I dare say I feel pretty confident in asserting that nobody can duplicate what he did. He set up in Seattle what he called, or was affectionately known as, the Love Lab. So basically they took an apartment and they put cameras in the whole place and wired it and mics and all this stuff. Everything all right, sir? Need some help? Just lost in general? Need some guidance in life? So this is Gerrard Square, and before you get too carried away, this is like practically the ghetto here. So this is the Canadian ghetto, guys. Seriously, like, you gotta love Canada. If you got a chance to come out here, I got friends who I've been basically wailing on for years. At least one good buddy, and he's happy with his nice job in Kuwait, working as an IT manager for some crappy company, or whatever, a national brand. But listen, buddy, if you have a chance to come to Canada, you'll forget all of this other crap in a heartbeat. I like picking up stuff like this, eh? Although I don't recommend it for the masses. It's a leather thong, eh? I'm going to tie it on my wrist, right? In fact, I'm going to get my beautiful wife of 12 years to do the job for me. Sales is smiles, guy. If you don't feel like smiling, show them your teeth, guy. Trust me on that, guy. It works, they light up, guy. They'll buy shit from you, guy. All right. So, don't mind, guy. So, anyway, I want to get a coffee. I got some loonies and toonies. So this is your Canadian loonie. You might think these Canadians are crazy, eh? But this is what we call a loonie. It's actually just $1, right? Why they call it a loonie, nobody understands. And then they got a toonie. I don't have toonies in here, but you know, I got some change. But the point is, like, Canada's a great country. Like the way I, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Thank you. Shay. There you go. You want it? It's just a piece of metal, eh? It's just metal. There's nothing to it, eh? Apart from the value that society in general has chosen to attribute or ascribe to it, my good man. Anyway, so I've officially lost my wife, so I might as well find a coffee somewhere. And that ain't happening because McDonald's is outside. So she's in there. You know what we're going to do? I'm going to go outside and get a coffee and forget about this whole thing. I don't like malls anyway. Too many people, dear viewer. So yeah, John Gottman set up a lab in Seattle. He's a scientist. And so when a scientist, for instance, let's say a scientist who's worth his salt, a real scientist, an evidentiarian, you might say, someone who's out to gather evidentiary, factual data that's irrefutable. The problem is this: everybody has an opinion about things, but are there any facts that base up what you're saying, that actually lend credence to what you're saying? I mean, it's my beautiful atheist friends that have actually taught me this method of thinking. I mean, I'm the son of a scientist. My dad is he's a professor at Mount Royal University in Calgary. You know, mashallah, he's been teaching for 30 years, 45 years, some crap, who cares, right? After 20 years, it's all the same. It's a moot point, right? He's been teaching a long time. So the consummate scientist is an evidentiarian. Evidentiarian meaning that, so John Gottman didn't go out to, well, I mean, he might have had some hypotheses about relationships to begin with, but he didn't go out to do anything apart from study couples and document exactly on a factual basis what's going on. So they set up this thing in Seattle called the Love Lab. Love Lab means that they had an apartment and they rigged it up with cameras and mics everywhere except obviously in the bathroom or what have you. And they basically invited literally like 1,000 couples to come into this place and essentially just interact. And as a result of all these machinations or what have you or whatever he did, basically they came up with, well, he came up with this kind of dictum, as it were. It's very profound, actually. He says, well, I cannot predict if a couple is going to stay happily married. I cannot predict that. And by default, or by virtue of that statement from such a great eminent scientist who's actually studied these things scientifically, I would say nobody can predict whether a couple are going to stay together or not. However, here's the flip side. There's always a flip side, like our good man Busta Rhymes would say. The flip side is that he says I can predict with a 98% degree of accuracy whether a couple are going to split up or not. And he has this thing called the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. He says there's 4 telltale signs in a marriage that if I see them, if I see one of them, that's bad. If I see 2 of them, that's really bad. If I see 3 of them, the marriage is in critical condition. Like these guys are going to separate in short order, right? What are they? I know 3 of them. All I'm saying is that you should go out and read this book. And to be honest with you, I wanted to make this video about atheism and all this nonsense. You know, show me evidence for the universe, or why do people suffer? The 2 main questions I figured out. Or the last one would be, who created God, if God created everything? And they also answered this question themselves in Dawkins' famous book, right? The no-God delusion, or the God delusion. I wrote the no-God delusion. Dawkins is like, well, it's an infinite regress, right? So to say that there had to be a creator and obviously some force or something out there that's responsible for what we see around us, to say that it just is, and then you accuse us of intellectual laziness, and you'll be like, the universe just is, natural laws just are, everything is so sublime, and then you'll start nitpicking. You'll say, why are there natural disasters? If the universe is so perfect, if God's creation is so perfect, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran says, فَانْظُرْ إِلَىٰ خَلْقِ الرَّحْمَنِ هَلْ تَرَىٰ مِنْ فُطُورٍ. Look at God's creation. Do you see any flaws in it? And then people come up with stupid freaking things like, why do men have nipples? Or why do we have an appendix? Or let's say, why are there natural disasters? The answers for all these questions are also in the Quran. Natural disasters, unfortunately, as horrific as it sounds, as genocidal as it makes God seem, natural disasters, according to the Quran, are essentially a balancing act. Allah says in the Quran, if we didn't balance out one people with another and through wars and all this stuff, there would be no temples and no mosques and no churches wherein God is worshipped. People are evil. This is really all I got to say. People are evil. You're evil, I'm evil. And I guess it's time to go, because that's a go trade. So we're going to McDonald's. We're going to get us a nice coffee. Hopefully we're not going to get into trouble. Hopefully we're not going to get the cops called on us. Hopefully we'll get our muffin. Hopefully we won't go too many snares and sneers. Hopefully that ponytail is going to actually ride itself up and go to the backside of the head as opposed to look like a unicorn. So talking about Gottman. So once again, Gottman set up this love lab, supposed love lab, or what have you, is affectionately known as, hey man, extra large double-double, or large David double-double with the muffin, carrot muffin.
Sure.
Thanks, man.
$2.25.
Am I allowed to tip you, my good man?
No, not
Oh,
here.
come on.
I wish
Such
I could.
exemplary service, and I'm not allowed to show my... Okay, I gotta put something in the box then, eh? And I'll actually put gold in there, not just silver. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
So Gottman, if Gottman says something about a relationship or relationships in general, folks, that's very different than you and I just blabbing and shooting off our mouth. It's like your brother-in-law who lives in a goddamn trailer in South Miami Beach or whatever, and he's got advice on how to be rich and a millionaire. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. On the other hand, go and read Warren Buffett or Donald Trump's book. Like, people down Donald Trump, listen, I wouldn't vote for him myself. He's obviously a nationalist and he's obviously a fucking fanatic. Sorry for swearing, guys. But at the same time, he's a billionaire. Hello, he's an eminently successful guy. And guys, people who say he's an idiot, those are the people who are idiots. If you were so smart, where's your business? If you're so smart, where's your empire? If you're so smart, how come nobody knows about you? Really? It's very easy to stand there and say, well, the guy's a moron and the guy's a redneck or whatever, and he's none of those things. He's a very smart businessman. And by the way, if he is elected president, he is going to do a lot of good for the country. Unfortunately, he's also going to cause World War III, which is a bit of a downer, eh? So my whole thing is, respect the man and feel the burn, eh? Feel the burn. Right, people? Bernie Sanders is the only hope left for this planet. And by the way, Clinton is going to win. Anyway, these are just my thoughts on the matter. Going back to Gottman, he set up this lab, okay, in Seattle. It was an apartment, rigged with cameras and mics and everything. And he studied couples. He studied like 1,000 couples. And essentially what they did and what they were interested in is, why do people argue? Why do couples argue? Right? So you supposedly find someone after 18 years or 20 years, you find someone, you click with that person, you feel love or whatever's going on in terms of the chemical reactions. Everyone's been through it who's grown up in 20, 30 years plus, okay? And then later on you realize that not only is it not what it seemed, it's the opposite of what it seemed. The pleasure becomes pain, okay? The bliss becomes hell. The heaven turns into a living nightmare. You feel like, I wish not only had I not met this person, I wish I'd not been born. guys actually go crazy. They can't handle this stuff. They're jumping off balconies, shooting people, killing. Unfortunately, it's got to be said. People are like, why do you talk like this in front of children? Because children should know what kind of world they live in. Guys go crazy and they start shooting people and kids and their own kids. There's a guy in Miami who jumped off a balcony with his kids. That's because he just was driven crazy by arguing with his wife. If that's not something worth talking about, I really don't know what is. So Gottman, after years of research and studying thousands of couples, and we're talking about they had these people hooked up so you can look at their brain scans and like the chemicals and brain reactions, all this kind of stuff, neural impulses, whatever. I'm not a scientist, I just pretend to be one. Guys, dear viewer, listen. The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Gottman says, I cannot predict, and I don't think anyone can predict, therefore, when a couple is going to stay together. Because that's like voodoo magic. It's called human nature. You never know what anybody is going to do next. That's why I love being a sales guy. I pick up the phone. I have no idea what the dude is going to be like, or the lady, or what they're going to say. They could wig out, or they could turn into be something like a Lady Diana, and their whole purpose in life is to donate to the foundation or whatever that I'm representing. And I'm like, calm down and take it easy, all right? Let's just go $1,000 at a time kind of thing. Seriously. You know, and you'll be in situations where, as a good salesperson, like if you don't have the goods, you can still offer some guidance and some advice to people. Listen, guys, all people want in this life is some recognition and love and respect and stuff like that. So if you're a salesperson, make it your job to try and touch lives. You've got such an opportunity to touch lives and be a professional and be honorable, right? People will respect you for that. If you call up and the person's bent out of shape and they start swearing at you, what's wrong with you guys? I told the last guy to take me off my list and all this nonsense. And then you're like, I'm sorry, I did, and you're sincere. You're like, I really didn't know any of what you're telling me, and as we're speaking, I'm making notes, and I'm going to go and whatever, and you basically do what they teach you in all these dumb classes, customer service classes that nobody ever applies. Trust me, the person is going to be gratified, and you're going to, not only that, but you're going to potentially reinvigorate their faith in humanity. Essentially, you could really change lives big time. So Gottman studied all these couples, guys, and he says, I can't predict, and I don't think anyone can. It's like you can't predict who's going to be a good sales guy. Like as I mentioned in one of my cold calling videos, if you go to YouTube/sales and MKTG for you, sales and marketing for you, or just go to my website and click on whatever links I got up there. I got articles and cold calling and all this kind of stuff. I talked about this lady called Sabrina. Hey, where's my coffee, guys? How long does it take to pour a freaking coffee, guy? You think I'm a nice guy so you can treat me like crap? Is that what it is? It takes 2 seconds to pour damn coffee and grab a muffin out of the damn thing. Now hurry up with it. Seriously, man. Think I got nothing to do but stand around blabbing with you guys all day? Alright, so Gottman says, I can't predict when someone's going to stay together. Okay? But I can predict when a marriage is going to fail. And he calls them 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. One of them is criticism. The other one is condemning. Actually, criticism, contempt. And then there's stonewalling. I don't know what the 4th one is. So criticism, so let's say that your wife comes home after a long day's work and she's told you to take the garbage out, and she comes home and the garbage is still there. So basically at that point, she has 2 options. She can either complain or she can criticize. Complaining is just a general observation of, honey, I asked you to take out the garbage, fact. You have not taken out the garbage, fact. Now, average person is not going to leave it at that. Average person is going to take it into the realm of criticism, which is to say, honey, you're a lazy slob. Not only that, thanks buddy, I appreciate that. Sorry for being a bit thingy on the cuff, but that's the way God made me. And I don't apologize for asking for service, eh? I'm a customer service fanatic, and I think we deserve, for instance, as taxpayers, to have our money spent correctly. And if we're paying for food and paying all these wankers' bills, then we deserve to have service. Thanks, McDonald's. I won't come back for the refill. How about that, eh? Deal? So Gottman says something like, well, listen, if you are complaining about something, that's valid. You're allowed to complain, and you have every right to. But why are you going to turn it into a criticism? Why are you going to say something like, honey, you never... Okay, when you say something, girls, here's a little tip. It's very easy for you guys to start saying things like, you never ask me how I'm doing, or you never do what I ask you to do. Like, to say something like, hey, I came back from work and you haven't taken out the garbage, and I've been working hard all day. These are all factual statements. I've been working hard all day, and then you might say something like, it appears like you don't care about me. Or this is how you should say it, apparently. I've been to plenty of marriage counseling classes like a lot of folks. You might say something like, I've come home from work, you haven't taken out the garbage. That makes me feel, instead of blaming the person, you take it on yourself. Like they have this saying in Urdu, which is to shoot a gun off somebody's shoulder. Like you got a rifle or a shotgun, and to take aim, you put it on someone's shoulder and shoot, and so that person becomes complicit in the thing. So if you say to someone, you haven't taken out the garbage, that's one thing. But if you say to someone, hey, you're so lazy, that becomes a criticism. Or if you say something like, you never take out the garbage, that becomes factually incorrect. Never is a long time, guys, and there's no such thing as never, and there's no such thing as ever. Like, there's no infinity, there's no random. Never, you might have a never, but there's no ever. I mean, what I'm saying is, before making these exaggerated claims about someone's integrity or whatever, it might be that the guy is bent out of shape because you didn't let him watch the ball game on Sunday, and he couldn't go to his buddy's house, and you forced him to stay at home. And he's got this pent-up anger inside. A lot of what we face in life is based on repressed emotions, guys. We got repressed emotions, and scientifically it causes a toxicitis in the brain. I don't even know the word. Toxic reaction. When you repress emotions, toxic chemicals actually build up in your brain to the extent that you start acting out. Right? You become depressed. You might shoot somebody. Seriously, it's really bad stuff, and it's all scientific. So when you come home and you see that your husband hasn't taken out the garbage, you got two options. You can either say, this makes me feel like you don't care. This makes me feel like I'm doing all the work around here. This makes me feel like, I'm alone in the world. Salamun alayki. This makes me feel like أنا مسلمان كما أنتِ ولكن أنا متقي, not like you. Anyway. So, if you say you're an idiot for not taking out the garbage, that becomes the criticism. Let's leave it at that. What you should say is, you make me feel stupid. You make me feel like I'm worthless and you don't care. Tell the person how you feel without criticizing them and saying you're a dick or you're a bitch. Hey, we're all dicks and we're all bitches. Just trust me on that one. And once you figure that out, that's going to help you big time. Anyway, I'm just going to hang out by the Jeepulus Romulus, and hopefully my beautiful wife is not going to be pissed off, eh? Let's just finish up here real quick. I don't even know why I got on this rant. It's just because we watched this amazing thing by Dr. John Gray, right? This amazing talk that he gave, a TED talk. What's very interesting is this. As I mentioned, there's always a flip side. If you're interested in relationships at all, like my brother Barker got married last July. His 1-year anniversary is coming up. And everyone knows that the first year is one of the hardest years of marriage, if not the hardest year. It's like they say, when you go to jail, the first year is hard and the last year is hard. But other than that, it's fine. It's just time. You're spending your time. They call it time. You might have baby time, which is a few months or a few years, couple of years. You might have big time, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. But you're there and you got to deal with it. You don't have your freedom, you got to make the most of it. You're in a situation where you literally have to fight to survive. It's very tough, but it's like the army. Being in jail, on the one hand, is the worst thing that could happen to you. It might be the best thing that could happen to you. It's really all about what goes on in your mind. It really is what they say. Your attitude defines what happens in life. So there's always a flip side of everything. The whole universe is composed of opposites. It's another, obviously, proof of God. I'll go back to the atheist things on another rant. I mean, the question of suffering is there because it creates spirituality. Material suffering creates the conditions for spiritual experience, period. Now, on the other hand, who created God is an infinite regression. There had to be an uncreated creator. There had to be an uncaused cause. There had to be something that was just is. Now, whether you call it God or you call it the Great Spirit, the problem atheists have is that they say, well, you shouldn't anthropomorphize this thing. You shouldn't attribute it with human characteristics. They're looking at the whole thing backwards. If there is a God and he does have kindness and wisdom and knowledge, and which he does, all these things, why would he create a stupid creature that doesn't exhibit any of these things? Right? Like, if we're humans, what's the ultimate thing we can make? Probably something that's similar to another human, which is artificial intelligence and sentient beings in the Matrix and all this kind of crap, right? Wouldn't that be the ultimate creation? That's why we're called Ashraf al-Makhluk. Ultimate creation. Of course we're going to be like him in some shape or form, apart from the fact that we can't even conceive of him. Listen, I only need to ask the question, what was going on prior to the Big Bang, to get you thinking on the kind of lines that we're thinking of as theists. You're talking about laws of the universe and the system. The laws that govern the system can't explain the system. Do you understand? The laws that govern the system and the causality and the effects and all this bullshit science that you're so proud of that's going on inside of the system, whatever system. So this cup of coffee, can't explain itself, right? It can't answer that. By studying this cup of coffee, you'll never know who poured the coffee or what kind of world that person lives in. By studying this cup of coffee, you'll know about its flavor. You'll know about its texture. You'll know about stuff about coffee. You'll know about heat and keeping things hot and different crap, right? You can't study this cup. The only thing you can infer from, basically, if you study this cup of coffee, let's say this is our universe, can you say anything about what's outside of this cup of coffee? All you can say is there is something outside of this cup of coffee, because this cup of coffee hasn't been around forever, and it didn't spontaneously appear, and it doesn't explain itself. The universe doesn't explain itself. You understand? The universe in itself is amazing. All these laws, natural science, all this kind of bullshit. However, questions of happiness, questions of what's the meaning of life, questions of, are you going to like walk right into me, mate? Just because I'm brown? Questions of the bigger questions in life can't be explained by science. And moreover, going back to the cup of coffee, questions about what goes on outside this cup of coffee cannot be answered by studying the cup of coffee. That's what that shit is. Now, going back to relationships, you've got Dr. John Gray and you've got Dr. John Gottman. Oh, I know what these fuckers want. They want me to share my bun with them. So that's what I'm going to do. Hey, listen, I went and bought like Mars and Venus and the 7 Principles of Making Marriage Work from Amazon. Hey, hold on a second. Are you guys crazy? Here you go. Fucking pigeons. There you go. What you think of that? Look at them. You're fucking vermin, you know that? You don't even share none of this shit. And these poor little birdies over here, they don't get to eat nothing, huh? Come on, birdies. Hey, you gotta wait. Let the small guys eat, eh? Come on, guys. Small guys? They're fucking like, obviously following the law of the jungle, eh? They're vicious, eh? That's because it's like Stephen Fry says, the majority of animals are hungry, stressed out, all this kind of bullshit. Read Mars Venus, get the audiobooks. I'm going to give them to my brother. God bless you. 30 minutes, bitches.